of great information in terms of what you can do when you're operating in trust for those that are properly prepared. So this particular clip that I played at the beginning of this class is appropriate because it's to remind you of things that happened weeks past and how they're playing into the narrative now, which should play into your strategy of where you should be going in the aspect of trusteeship. So if you keep listening, you will learn something. I'm going to definitely come back. I'm going to ask some questions. We're going to get down to the nitty-gritty of it, but I just want to just make sure that you're definitely locked in so you understand just the severity of these things. Because, see, a lot of times we don't put the emphasis on the severity of a lot of things that are happening because we're just, pretty much kind of going through the motion. But if you listen long enough, you'll definitely learn something. And Dave is going to bring out a very interesting point that's going to tie all this stuff together. So keep listening.
We need to kind of reboot that as soon as possible. I don't know if you want to get with KZ or anybody that we can kind of gather. We can kind of cross-reference, kind of give maybe on the internet some kind of where we could put some ideas of what we need to do. We should have been doing this in the spring. Now, generally most of us kind of always drink teas and we're kind of more conscious about what we need to do, but this could be a pandemic in the making with these people that came off those planes that were sick. So I just want to put that out.
Hello, can I add something, Erica? Can you please give us some? Okay, Erica, remember the personal things that we were talking about that we can do immediately in reference to our own self-truth, things that immediately they can start doing now that they may not perceive as being as important, things like shaking hands and so forth. So if you want to give them a little bit of that, that'll help them get the jump started right away. Thank you.
Well, yeah, I definitely think we should not really do the shaking hands like we usually do. Do the fist bumps or whatever. We need to carry, and Dave, you're a big person about not using and putting the word out about not using hand sanitizers because it actually strips what we need as prevention. So, we need to put that out there because most people think, I just carry a hand sanitizer and I'm fine. We need to, reboot on some colloidal silver, and go into that mode because we could be looking at a lot of mania in the next couple of months, depending on how many hurricanes. Because, see, if this hurricane was in the wintertime, we'd be looking at about 6-7 feet of snow. Because it travels that same route, coming up from the south, the cool, warm coming up from the south, the cold coming down from Canada, and that causes that nor'easter. And I know, and Dave, we know because we're nor'easterns. So, if this were to happen in December, we could have snow. And so we need to put some forces in motion. But I think a false flag was that week when we had those planes come over because they talked about that for like 1 or 2 days, and then some other disaster was coming on the horizon dealing with political, and then it was the hurricane. So you can see how all these setups really take our focus off of some of the things that are most important. And people think, well, I'm out west, I ain't got to worry about no plane that came into Philadelphia. Yes, you do. You know what I'm saying? Those people who came to Philadelphia, that's a hub that went all over the world. So we need to really just get our defenses in order. Like you said, the prepping of our bodies, the prepping of our mind, and the prepping of our souls. And definitely prep with our children. A lot of times parents think, okay, well, I'll take it because my children say it's nasty. No, make them take it too.
Sister Davis, you and Brother Davis was so right on this. And I want to just say something about the sick plane deliveries. And we actually put an article in. I didn't know if you guys got to hear what's in the news just before it started. U.S. diplomat involved in trafficking of human blood and pathogens for secret military program. And Sister Davis, I'm with you. There's a lot on the horizon, with the anniversary of the Spanish flu, and they like to do things because that's a ritual practice that we're really looking at. They call it they try to say it's an anniversary, but you know and I know that what they're really doing is that they like to do things on those days and to memorialize the ritual practice that was that Spanish flu, and then that's what they're doing. And so all of the indicators are there that, there's a lot more that's going on, and that mysterious cough that everybody has. And then with North Carolina getting hit with this hurricane, one of the things that the hurricanes and the water does is that it's a breeding ground for bacteria, for pathogens, for germs, for viruses, because now the sewage has been compromised, and now the water it becomes a real cesspool for all of this stuff to actually heighten the overall strength of it all. And what do you have with the water displacement? You also have people that are going to be going to shelters and going to different places, and what's happening here is by no coincidence, or is it by chance? It's definitely by design. 1 second, Keith wanted to chime in. So, Sister Davis, yes, if you guys want to do it Wednesday.
Hey, Brother Dave, let me add one more thing, because see, what people don't know is 10 years ago, General Tilley went up to the North Pole, where the last of the people who had the Spanish flu were literally disposed of. Why? Because they wanted to get a sample of the flu. That was 10 years ago.
Yeah,
so don't let nothing surprise you. I just wanted to add that tidbit. One more thing, Erica, you do sound good on the radio, baby. Look, I'll talk to you later. Peace.
Let me tell you, I love Brother Davis and Sister Davis. And I've had the pleasure of meeting them. What you hear on the radio is actually how they live, and so I'm not surprised Brother Davis said what he said. It's so amazing. But yes, Sister Davis, Brother Davis, Tando Radio Show is our platform. So whenever you want to do it, and we will focus on our holistic health, because Sister Davis is absolutely right. We don't need to use those antibacterial, because that actually weakens and hampers our immune system to be able to fight those things. This is how you become where superbugs can now attack your body even more. They weaken your immune system. We need to fortify our immune system by the appropriate ways, and now's the time to do it. And this is something that we should be very, very aware of. And like Sister Davis said, I don't think that was a coincidence, that 3 planes all of a sudden. No, that what we're seeing is a clandestine operation. Definitely. And I'm glad, Sister Davis, you brought that up, and we must do a whole lot more. One second. So we will definitely do that. That will be a priority. So, Brother Davis, Sister Davis, whatever day you want to do the show, we will definitely do that. Let me Keith wanted to chime in really quickly. Let me let me mute myself so Keith can jump in. Go ahead, Keith.
I was just going to piggyback on some of the other things that you were saying. In that area in the Carolinas, I was reading an article where there are several large, what they call CFAs, those confined farms, and they were saying that for whatever reason, they weren't able to empty out. These farms have an extreme amount of waste as far as fecal matter, as far as urine, et cetera, et cetera. They got extreme amounts. And they were saying that for whatever reason that these farms weren't able to get rid of those things prior to this hurricane coming in. So they were all there, and they were already filled when this hurricane came in. So going back to what you were saying, without the sewage and stuff like that, you're looking at extreme circumstances as far as that goes as well, with this hurricane and the floodwaters and those things.
It's definitely so conveniently apparent that it was, this situation is here. And that's what when an operation is. This is how, when you get ambushed, it's it's a surprise. It's small things that have a different alternative meaning to what it is, and that's what Keith was alluding to, and that's what Brother and Sister Davis were talking about. So, yes, Brother and Sister Davis, if you'd like to do it, and I will focus on that this week as well, because we need to really get our overall. And I'm going to tell you, remember FEMA and celebrity figurehead Trump said this month is preparedness month, and it's your duty to do that. And most people thought because of, it's the hurricane season. No, it's because stuff is coming down the pipe, and things are already happened and unfolding. And so that's very, very apparent. So I'm so glad, yes, we will definitely do that. I think Keith wanted to chime back in real quickly. Hold on, Keith. Let me unmute you.
Sister Dave. Yeah, the other thing that you were talking about when you were talking about FEMA and stuff, we had shared last week that Donald Trump had taken, I think, so many millions of dollars outside from FEMA to give to that. Well, what else that came out was they had taken
the concentration part of FEMA.
Right. But they also, not only did they take away from FEMA for this cause, because you mentioned that all these things were coming down the pipe, but he also took millions and millions more than that from the Coast Guard. So as we know that oftentimes in these situations, the Coast Guard does just as much as FEMA does. Well, he took the funds from the Coast Guard as well out of that rescue mission to do all these things. So, you have a potpourri, if you will, of natural things and also things that they're doing to make whatever damage it is, which is huge. They're making it worse by their actions, and it seems to be at this point in time. It seems to be like you said, an ambush. A lot of people don't understand that there's a lot of planning and an ambush, and it seems like that's exactly what they're doing. They're coming at us from all angles to make this seem much worse than it needed to be.
Mm-hmm. So true, and I think Sister Davis wanted to chime in, and then Scotty wanted to chime in. Sister Davis, did you want to chime in?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I wanted to chime in, and because the brother did say about the cesspools, I put an article up too about that. And guess what? They never drained up. It isn't like they were trying to do anything in light of this hurricane. That's the way it is, because we have as truck drivers, I have seen them cesspools. We went to this one cesspool area with a chicken farm, and I when I seen it with my own eyes, I mean, you would think they would cover it so that drivers and people who don't really work there would be exposed to seeing it, and it is blood and guts, like you would never believe. It just sits there, and who knows? It doesn't. Even if it drains, where would it go? It would have to go into the sewage supply, and it's just, and it's hot. It's Georgia. It's hot, and it just bakes of bacteria in the hot sun. So I've never seen the pig one, but I've seen the chicken one, and it's just horrific. And, of course, it would just overflow. And so one of the things I would like to say is parents and anybody on this call, get some rubber boots. Don't just think that you're walking through the water these days. This is, got to protect your feet, your hands, and your head. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of people think, oh, okay, I'm just going to walk out here. The ground is wet, because I don't like wet feet. So I always kind of wear, I always keep rubber boots or totes, that kind of thing that you could cover your feet with, even though you're wearing, leather shoes or leather sneakers. Look, you need something that's going to really protect your feet. And I know young kids hate to wear rubber boots to school because other kids ain't doing it. Look, we need to protect our children and adults, because I know I'm a real stickler on my husband when he goes to wear rubber boots, when it rains a lot, not just for safety of falling, but, you have to think, what are you walking through? Just because it looks like water, it could have any type of chemical in that. It not even fecal matter, just some type of chemical that has spilled over. So that's just something I want to put out there today, because on the East Coast, rivers, everything's rising. We're going to have a lot of rain on the East Coast, but even in other areas, we need to protect our feet, your toes, that's a breeding ground. and a lot of things can come up through your feet. So when you go to different areas, maybe